Uh, okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. So, Princess, shoot.
So the question is how I got into the industry and my background and where I am at now. I just want to make sure I understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, everyone. So in my undergrad, I love working with my hands. So I went for engineering because I really wanted to build cars. I had this whole idea in my head, but I hated physics. So I had to kind of like regroup and figure out exactly what I would want to do with my life. But I still remained in the engineering faculty at McMaster. So at McMaster, we have the engineering stream, and then you have like the engineering technology. So biotechnology tends to fall under the engineering technology aspect of things. So that's where I ended up at, but I was able to kind of know that I wanted to be in pharma with my internships that I had like an undergrad. I worked in food. I got bored within like the 4 months that I was there. So I knew for a fact that that's not where I wanted to be. So when I did my internship in pharma, at Therapy or Biopharma, I was able to kind of know that this is where I wanted to be. However, I noticed that like a lot of people that were there did have, like a second degree to them. So that definitely inspired me to go for my master's. So I did my undergrad in biotechnology at McMaster, and then I did my master's in biotechnology as well at U of T. So that's a little bit of my background and how I ended up in pharma. Where I am right now, I am a data manager, a data quality lead at Hoffman LaRoche. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
Oh, I mean, brilliant. So, okay, since I know you still have some time. So how did you transition, from that background, core clinical research and life science background into managing data for clinical research or pharma? Because it's a bit, people say it's different from working in pharma is different from, or working as a data manager in pharma is different from working as a data manager maybe in CRO or something like that. So how did you transition to that, from the life science background and just transition like that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I did my master's in biotechnology. So the great thing about my master's program, the one that I went for specifically, is the fact that it is course-based, and I chose it for that reason because I did not want to be in any labs. And with that, it also came with a requirement to do like a year minimum internship. So with that, they definitely provide us with job listings and things of that sort. You still do have to apply. You are competing with like your classmates and whatnot. So we were able to do that. And that was essentially how I got into the company, and I practically stayed on. So when I did start off as an intern, I was an associate DM, helping out people here and there. But the fact that I did stay on, that was kind of how I transitioned into that role. So I actually have not left my role since I went into Roche. So that's how I got into the industry.
Wow. So how many years have you been in Roche?
It's going to be 4 years soon. So I'd say a little over 3.5.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Amazing. So I think we about 5 minutes. So yeah. Benga, please, can you take the stab at the question?
Absolutely, and thanks a lot, guys, for the invitation. I really appreciate this. So yeah, I've always loved science, and that was my reason for going to study biochemistry. So that was my first degree, and when I was done with that, growing up in Nigeria, right, like your prospects of continuing in the science field is very, very shaky. So I knew that I needed to find something that would, that I'll need to fulfill my passion. At the same time, not having to take a 180 and probably move into accounting and do my ICANN or something like that, which is kind of the way it kind of plays out back home in Nigeria. So anyway, so I wanted something not in the in the accounting field, but something not too deep into, basic sciences, like having to do like a master's in biotechnology or things like that. I wanted something that could be a way for me to use my science background in a practical way. So clinical research kind of felt like the right balance for me. And in terms of coming to coming to know the field, so towards the end of my program, and at Babcock 400 level, when I started to know the concept of clinical trials, but I didn't really, it didn't really register to me until, after I finished my NYSC. And when I was done with that, it was like the moment of truth. Okay, how do I move forward? So I didn't want to, change my career. And then I stumbled upon the field, and I actually enrolled in the Humber College program. And the most important thing about that program was the internship component that it had in there. So with that, I was able to get a placement as a research assistant at a hospital in downtown Toronto, St. Michael's Hospital. So I was there for my internship. I was done my placement. I got hired as a research coordinator, and in total, I was there for about 5 years. And obviously, I learned a lot about site level experience and what it takes to run research at the site level. And when I was towards my 5-year mark, I was like, what, I need to improve my competence, broaden my horizon, and the opportunity at Roche came up as a country study specialist. And I've been at Roche now for about 18 months, and I'm sure I'm going to have the opportunity to expand on my role. But that's the story in a nutshell.
Wow, I mean that's amazing. How you move from CRC to country studies specialist. I mean, I just want to chip in this. I think you have like a minute or two left. I just wanted to ask, would you generally say that folks, it's very important to get site level experience in clinical research?
In my opinion, it's very important. I know many people, they get in through maybe data management, or you kind of intern at a pharmaceutical company and you move on from there. But I feel like, in my own opinion, having that experience at the site level, connecting with the patient, it kind of makes things much more real. And that connection is there, it's much more stronger. So by the time you move into maybe the CRO or the sponsor side of things, you pretty much know how the coordinators operate. So you can always give advice and support that way. So I would say my site level experience was very, very fundamental, and it has actually helped me in my current role.
Wow, brilliant. Okay, so the next question, back to Princess, is so what's a typical day like working as a data manager in a pharma company as big as Roche? Like, what is your what happens if I wake up in the morning? Do I have to do this? Do I have to check emails? Do I have to, start entering a lot of data or reviewing a lot of data? These are the skill sets that I need for this kind of role. And then how does that accumulate in a month or in a week, then to a month, and then yearly? Like, what's the basic routine like, or quarterly? That's what Princess. So Wenga, that would be your own question too as a specialist. All right. So
how long do I have for this question?
Oh, you have a lot of time. You have 10 minutes for this. So
okay. And then if you have questions, just let me know. I honestly would say that the days are different. It just depends on the different phase that the study would be on, that you are working on. Of course, there are emails that you have to check. The emails could potentially entail a monitor asking you a question with regards to the data and how they can enter the data appropriately in order to resolve a query that I might have raised or another DM team member may have raised for the study. So you can have that, and then you obviously have your meetings, your data quality meetings, study team meetings with certain team members just to talk about the study as a whole. If you are going through like an amendment for that specific protocol for the study, then that might be something that you are dealing with at that moment, thinking about the protocol from a data perspective, thinking about how to appropriately capture the data that the protocol is asking to collect from the patient. Would it be in our electronic database, or would it be sent centrally and directly from the testing vendor? These are the things that you would have to think about, ensuring that the data is adhering to standards that we have at Roche, adhering to standards in the industry, and things of that sort. So I would say that each day is definitely different, but depending on the phase that your study is in, then you might find yourself doing some of the same things on consecutive days. So for example, if my study was at the very beginning, when I am like just at the startup of the study, I might be considering building the database at that point, building out all the forms that would be needed, at least from a site perspective, for them to collect the data, liaising with like the different functions, ensuring that like science, they're able to get the data that they need from a scientific perspective, pulling in the biostatistician, pulling in the safety scientist, the medical monitor, just to ensure that things are being collected the way that they want it to be collected, pulling in the programmer to ensure that they are programming the database in the most appropriate way. So for me, for example, I actually, my role right now is evolving away from the technical aspect. I used to do a lot of the things that I was talking about now with regards to, if, for example, I needed to build a database, I don't program, but I would write out the specifics, the specification for the programmer, and then they do it for me. But now my role is also evolving a little bit more into like the oversight role. So now I have to tell someone else what I want them to put in that specification for me. And then I review the specification just to ensure that that other individual has, put things the way that I imagine it based on the information that I have gathered from the other individuals. So now it comes with like its pros and cons. But yeah, so the role is just a little bit more high level now, oversight. And so I would say having that project management skill would be important for the role. Critical thinking is very important, because sometimes the protocol might say it in a certain way, but it may not be making sense to you. You need to understand exactly what is being asked of you, and just knowing how to ask the right question and pulling the right people in. Attention to detail, I would say, is also important. But yeah, overall, I would say no day is the same. It's just more so of ensuring that you are doing things based on the phase that your study is at that moment. That would be what I would say. So.
Okay, so you mentioned something about project management. So I'm just thinking, would you have to do things like budgeting for you? Because it means you have some kind of team that you have to do that oversight for. So maybe you're gonna have like other people working in your smaller team, because it seems if you're a manager of that team, you have to interrelate and interconnect with the biostatistician, as you said, the EMR or EDC or program specialist, as you said. And then, of course, the monitors who will be running these things at the site. I know, give or take, you'll be looking a lot at the protocol too, to ensure that, hey, the CRF we're building is really tight. Because that's basically, we talked about those things you want. So it means like part of the job will be CRF design, if I'm right. Okay, good. So would you have to do things like budgeting, apart from like your project management, just people management, or you have to do like a series of things as a project manager, and then of course the specifics to the data management itself?
So I don't deal with any sorts of budget. That would be the global team, which I believe that would be where the clinical study management team, I think falls under
global
that.
study.
Global, right? Because I don't do anything money.
Okay.
No, I don't do that. But I definitely, so like I said, my role is evolving a lot more. So we actually have a lot of external business partners from either like Cineus, Parexel, TCS. Most of my team for the studies that I'm working on are in India. So I am like the data quality lead at Roche from the sponsor perspective, and then our FSPs, the functional service providers, they will have a DM lead from Cineas or TCS, for example, and then they would also have like their own team as well. So they tend to do now more of the day-to-day querying. And then obviously, like if I see that there's something wrong, then I step in. But I tend not to do a lot of the task-related activities. I do them sometimes. Some of them might be a little bit more complex to deal with. Then they reach out to me to maybe get some sort of additional clarification. So that's the reason why I say that it is important to have that project management skill, because you need to liaise with other folks, right? You need to pull people in and just be able to, I don't want to say manage people, but manage expectations, set expectations for people. So that's kind of how I see it with just working with like the FSPs. And the reason why we're doing that is just so that we have more time to do more exploratory work and I guess be able to just improve in our skills as well. They don't really want us to like be tied down on like the day-to-day tasks. They want to be able to free us to do, because the industry is moving towards like real world data and all these other things right now going on, you know, in the industry. So they want to be able to, you know, give us that time to explore projects, non-study work as needed. Yeah, so that was the reason why I had specifically set the project management skill.
Oh, brilliant. Benga, what's your take on this? What's your day like? What's the day in the life of Benga like on a daily, weekly, maybe even monthly or quality basis? Like what's the routine? And then if there are any extras, how does it happen? What other extra thing happens?
You know what, right off the bat, and in agreement with Princess, no day is the same. Every day is always different.
Yeah.
You could do one thing for like a week, or you know, things could just come up, which is usually the case in multiple places, in multiple ways, and it could you know, make your day quite interesting. So I'll just say that, you know, it's quite a dynamic experience, and no day is the same. So where do I even start now? So just painting the you know, the architecture. You know, you have your sites and you have your site stakeholders like the PI, you know, your patient, your coordinator at the site level. Then you have your CRA, who is like the, you know, first line of contact for the site. Then you have your sponsor, or it could be your CRO that was contracted out by the site to manage that particular project. So, and in the midst of all that, you have your vendors that assist with different kind of activities or functions that will actually assist with delivering the operational aspect of the study, like, you know, data management, data setup. Maybe like they could be like Rave or RedCap, depending on what you want to use. You could have the lab, like Covance. Then you could have, you know, the depot that kind of ships, you know, drugs to the site. So all these things are all set up, and you kind of sit kind of above, looking at things, you know, seeing the big picture. So first of all, I'll say one key task that you support with is reviewing the monitor's reports. So because the monitors go to the sites, they monitor the performance of the site, they see if there are any deviations, or they see that things are being done the right way or otherwise. So they kind of capture that in the report. So you review that thoroughly to see if there's any gaps, any issues for escalation. Then you can have a discussion further with the CRA in terms of dealing with the issue, or if it's kind of serious, you have to escalate internally to the right stakeholders. Then the other thing is obviously emails, and these emails have to do with issue escalation from the CRAs. So, you know, the CRAs, like I said, are the first line of contact. So for the most part, with the protocol, with the study manuals and all the tools that we have at our disposal, the CRAs should be able to take care of site issues. But if, you know, it's beyond their scope, or they feel that they need to escalate, the first line of contact is to reach out to the study team, which is someone like me as CSS. So it could be related to vendor setup. So maybe data manage, like some site staff are not having access, or issues are happening with, you know, the PI sign off on the database. So you have to escalate to the right stakeholder to take care of that. Then medical and safety issues, right? So medical issues, you kind of refer to the study physician, who we call the medical monitor, or clinical scientists who take care of like science-related issues. Then in terms of data management, you could have escalations that come from CRAs, and we have our guidelines that we normally use, but obviously if it's beyond your understanding, you reach out to people like Princess to provide support in resolving those queries. So I always kind of forward emails to data managers to support with that. And obviously protocol related questions and things like that. So you kind of support with that, because you should be well versed with the study protocol, which is like the Bible or the Quran, whatever you might put it, of the study. So you kind of help out with that, and contracts and payments. So all these kind of things come up together, and to be honest, all this will come up in one day. Like, could resolve different kind of issues at different sites. So another important thing is running reports. So reports are very important. And one key thing is making sure that you kind of assess the risk level of the study by running reports and seeing where things stand. So you're kind of tracking, study deliverables against, against the milestones, and seeing how things are progressing. And only your reports, your study progress reports, will give you that kind of insight on what you need to do. So, and there could be reports for many things. So maybe you want to track that patients are signing the consent form, which is very important, and that could be an inspection finding. So you have to run those reports on a weekly basis. That's what we do. And if you see that there are gaps, then you know those CRAs or monitors that are responsible for those sites, then you reach out to them to take care of those issues. So those are just one thing that you could take care of. And in terms of meetings are multiple. So we have meetings with CRAs. From time to time, maybe there could be a protocol amendment, and you need to train them on that, because we also oversee their training to make sure that they understand the aspects of the study that relate to making sure that sites use the right protocol. Then we have our regular team meetings on a weekly basis to see how things are going, and it's more about seeing trends and resolving issues and identifying risk, other than issues coming up and you're now trying to put out the fire, right? That's always the emphasis, to focus on risk management. Exactly, that's the right word. Then you meet once in a while with the global operations team to align what you're doing, because I work at the country level, so you align your project on the work you do with global expectations. So, and obviously ad hoc meetings come up here and there that you can never run away from. And in addition to all the, skills and the, qualities that you have that Princess has mentioned, being proactive is also one thing I'll add. So you're not being reactive, because things will happen. So you have to make sure that you're always on the ball, running those reports, and just making sure that you have that eagle eye to, to notify, to kind of identify trends. And based on those trends, you can always act on it in a very proactive manner. And, just being results oriented and making sure that you troubleshoot and problem solve, rather than just sitting back and just complaining about issues that come up. So that's something that I would say is very, very helpful in my role.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You say problem solved, results oriented, troubleshooting. These are the things that people put in their CVs. So they will require it from you in the job, right?
Yeah, don't
so,
people put test. Yeah.
Okay, so because a lot of people put it like, oh, I'm results oriented. I can solve problems. Oh, you're gonna meet problems and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing Kay's laughing because he knows how the back and forth with CRA can be sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I don't know. Okay, folks haven't started throwing questions, but let me just, for both of you, you could start off first, Bengal, and Princess can also hit on it. So what would you say to someone who just looks at Bengal like, hey, I love that Bengal's role. So first, for the person who doesn't have any experience at all, like 0 or 1 year or minimal, or someone who has maybe transferable work skills from another sector similar to clinical research, like maybe the roles or the industries are similar. Maybe they did more observational studies, or someone coming from maybe just academic background, because I know that coming from an academic research background and working in core pharma is two different things, really. So what would you say to that kind of person? Early starter in the industry, mid-level med person who's trying to transition maybe from a CRC or maybe a CRA trying to get into study management at the country level or something like what you're playing or the role you're playing now? What would you say the person should be doing right now?
Well, yeah. So the thing is, you could be coming from different dimensions. Maybe you want to coming from as a CRC to the sponsor, end of things, or from academia and things like that. So there are different ways to kind of skin the cat. But number one is curiosity, right? So you have to, make out that time to understand how clinical research works. So even if, okay, for example, if you're at the site level, so you understand the way things work at the site level. But sometimes I feel that if you're CRC, you could kind of be in that one-dimensional mindset, looking at things at the site level. So you have to kind of ask questions. And if you have CRAs that come to your site, ask them how things work, at the CRO level or at the sponsor level, to kind of understand how things interconnect. Obviously, with Princess's role as a data manager, try to understand how things kind of fit into the holistic view of things, right? It's very important because when you go for interviews and you're working at the site level, they know that you've only had one picture, one angle of things, but they want to see how you've prepared yourself to understand how the whole picture comes together. So that curiosity and that ability to learn and to be, very curious to understand the way things meet is very, very key. And obviously, right, making sure that you get the right training if you're kind of new into the field. So getting GCP training, TCPS2 for Canada, and Division 5 and FDA regulations, depending on where you are. So just having that, self-motivation to get yourself those, knowledge and the experience that is needed is very important. And obviously volunteering is very, very critical as well. I know obviously it's pro bono, but it's very key. I mean, one last thing, and just in my own case, if there's a way that you could get into a program that has an internship component that would, give you the right theoretical knowledge, and they also have that network to provide and that influence to get you that placement at maybe at a pharmaceutical company or at a CRO or at a site level, which was how I started. That would be very, very beneficial to, get your foot into the pharmaceutical field if that's where you're going to go, or in the clinical research field in general. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, brilliant. Because I hear Dan. Sometimes I watch other YouTubers and guys in clinical research. They talk about being a generalist, like having 360-degree knowledge. Clearly, your job requires you to have 360-degree knowledge of the entire clinical research spectrum. Princess, a lot of questions are coming in for you on the chat box. I can see that Jennifer sent something in and Dr. Litsu also sent something in. So your questions are going to be threefold. The first question, just like, what should someone be doing now? I think that's what Litsu is asking. Well, let me just read out what Jennifer asked. She said, what personality type would flourish in data management? I guess that's what she means, an introvert or an extrovert. Then Litsu is saying, I also want to know how to get into data management roles. Do I have to go through other roles before I get into data management roles? Or can it also be an entry-level role for someone who has no experience? So, Princess.
Maybe I can tackle the personality. I feel like it doesn't matter your personality. It's not like a role where you're sitting behind a laptop and just entering. You're actually not even entering data. You manage, you clean the data. And like I said, like you're pulled into several meetings. You are pretty much involved in anytime it has to deal with data. You're pretty much involved in that. So I don't necessarily think that a specific personality type could flourish more than others. So I would say it's open to any. And then the second question, wanting to know how to get into a data management role. Do you need to go through other roles before you can get into a DM role, or can it be an entry role? Honestly, in my specific department, I don't think I've seen anybody who got in as an entry role, except for anybody that came in through my actual program. A lot of us actually ended up just staying in the role, but they typically either come through like a CRO pathway, or maybe from like another department. But I haven't really seen entry role folks, except for people that came in through some sort of a master's program, like some sort of internship, and then, you know, if you're good, obviously they give you the job. So yeah, so I haven't seen much. I'm not saying that like it's not possible, but I don't think I see it, at least not in the company that I'm in. So
okay, so yeah, so that's because I mean I'm assuming everybody's talking about the sponsor. So you guys are the sponsor. So it's difficult to have this kind of entry level roles, maybe more in the CROs, because I've heard of clinical data management associate. I've heard of data validation specialists, stuff like that, data reviewers, you know, and stuff like that. So, so it's interesting, actually, you know, the job you have to do as a data manager. Now, so people want to usually know. I mean, most times I always say people say clinical research is a very interesting area. So, you know, would you say career-wise, this is fulfilling for you across the board? So personally, professionally, financially. A lot of people think so. This data thing that Princess is talking about. I want to take a stab at it. I think it, but I don't want to now start looking at Benga tomorrow and saying, hey, I should have actually gone into this study thing. Hey, maybe I'm not sure this is what I wanted to do. Hey, Benga them earns so much, or Princess earns way more than me. So there's always the confusion, like with the many roles. I know generally the say clinical research is you know, financially is rewarding as it is. So apart from passion, I know you have to be passionate to this kind of stuff. Generally, would you say for you it's rewarding? And then how would you advise someone who's coming in, like, if it's for the financial aspect, just be relaxed, you know, just make sure you have the passion. Financially, you'll be fine. What would you say for both of you, actually, Princess first and Genga?
Yeah, financially, I would definitely say it's rewarding, for sure. I would not really complain about that part from my perspective. But then again, you know, everybody has like their own little goals or whatever. But from a career perspective, honestly, one thing I love about my role is the fact that I personally feel like you can't be bored, because when I actually got in, I thought I made a mistake because the things were just flying over my head. I'm like, I really don't even know what's going on. It's like you feel like you've tackled this one aspect and then another aspect hits you. It's like, it's a lot of information. So I personally don't like routine work. And I love the fact that like it challenges me. There's always something. And like I said earlier, there are different levels and different stages of studies, study startup, study conduct, study closing. Depending on where you are here in you know, either of the three, you always have different things that you're working on, different requirements, different things. So I personally feel like the reason why I love it is the fact that like there's just always so much for me to, you know, keep doing. I don't think I would be bored in my job. So I personally feel like it's definitely worth it financially, career-wise. And then obviously you can definitely move up for sure. You can be a senior DM if you wanted to. If you wanted to apply for like a completely different role, you can do that too within our department. So from like a career progression perspective, I would say that it's good. Yeah.
All right, great. Benga, how would you want to start that from the CSS perspective? By the way, you saw the question from Kay. Very interesting one. So you just answered that one alongside that.
Yeah. Anyway, let me start with Kay's question there. Yeah. I won't be that wicked to reject the report. So what I'm kind of keen on is making sure that the overall, you know, sense and the meaning on what the CR is trying to convey is not, you know, missing or misplaced. As long as that is the case, like minor typographical errors are, you know, are okay to be reviewed. But obviously, one thing that I won't allow is maybe if the study is already on maybe protocol version 4 and maybe puts a 2 or a 3. that is definitely something that is worth correcting. So in that sense, in terms of like important numbering of maybe version numbers and version dates, I would definitely ask for corrections. But if it's just maybe minor, grammatical blunders, but the overall meaning is still kept, I'll definitely let it go and focus on more important and critical things. But yeah.
Issues, okay.
yeah. Because the thing is, if you reject the report, it affects the CRA's metric, because I think their managers look at, how many rejections they get. So I wouldn't want to do that to them, and because they're going to come back to me, I'm like, well, you're trying to make me lose my job by sending back multiple reports. So, and I've had that pushback from CRAs in the past. So I want to be on a good level playing field with them. So anyways, but yeah, so that's that. So in terms of the role at Roche and everything, look, financially, I'm not going to deceive myself. It's a no-brainer. It's way better, at least compared to my side level remuneration. So that was definitely the motivating factor. So, and but apart from that, the passion is what drives you drives you, right? And once the passion moves, everything around it, financial and everything follows, right? And like I had mentioned, I had been at the site for about 5 years, so I've done the whole gamut, like protocols, sponsors selecting you for protocol implementation, recruiting patients, then from recruiting patient data entry, REB or ethics board interactions, then close out. So I've done that maybe in multiple iterations. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm seeing things from one dimension, which I feel I've mastered, for the most part. So let me look for something that's going to provide me the big picture where I can interact with multiple stakeholders. And, working at the sponsor side of things, you might feel that you're working with a lot of people at the side level with your PR and the rest, but at the sponsor side of things, you work with DM, like, and data quality lead, like people like Princess, clinical scientists, the medical monitors, many kinds of stakeholders to, bring about, operational, success of the study. So it's something that I find, and I've come to appreciate that collaborative, view on things. And it's actually helped making sure that, you can actually express your ideas and be more communicative and expressive, because at the site level, I feel that people at the site level are a little bit reactive, because you feel like your sponsor are the ones pushing things to you, right? But I feel like if you're on the sponsor end of things, you're the proactive person, you're the one directing the state of affairs of things, and you can actually look at ways of improving things from a process and even a scientific point of view. So that's, that particular aspect of things kind of made me very motivated to move into the sponsor level, and so far it's been very rewarding. I don't regret the move for sure.
So I mean, Fulaya, I don't know if you answered your question, because it's technically similar, like how because I will assume that because sometimes I understand because I myself have worked on the site, and there was a time I became in the office and moved on to project, but that's a different. That was something completely different from core clinical research. It was more observational studies in a developmental organization or development organization. And I know that working at the site level helps me to understand the pains. So when we used to call them technical specialists or technical associates, clinical associates. When a technical associate is reporting to me there as a project coordinator and data lead at that time, I understood what was going on. Even when the admin people were saying, "Oh, don't give this, don't do that," I would tell them, "We need to find out why this was a problem, and we need to solve it like in a proactive manner, rather than just because if you don't have the side experience, I feel you might just, you might not really understand how things work there, and then you just throw out your own queries, and it just seems like this kind of long back and forth. It's wasting your time, it's wasting their time. You have other things to get off the page. So I don't know. What do you have to say about that? That experience you brought it from the start. That perspective, is it helping in your current job in the career progression now? That's being at this for you, actually.
Oh, okay. Sure. So look, that's absolutely what it is. Like, basically, when you deal with the site, because obviously you have that interface working with the CRA that connects with the site, but obviously when escalations come about, you actually have to directly connect with the site. So I'm not I'm completely cut off from that. But I kind of feel their pain because I was there like for 5 years, so I know exactly the issues at hand. I know what they kind of go through. So in terms of having to brainstorm on how to solve things from a logistical point of view, I've been there before, right? So I can always prefer solutions. So it's made me a lot, better in my role. Look, I'm going to be honest. Some people actually get into the CSS role that I actually have right now without having any site level experience, and they still thrive, right? So I'm not going to discount that. So, but I feel that it's allowed me to bring my own flavor, if you will, like to the role, because I know exactly how I need to approach things. And I'll say, in my opinion, it made me hit the ground running when I started my job, right? So, because I feel that maybe those that don't have that, operational experience at the site level, they might take a while to get the hang of things. That's from my own point of view. If I was comparing myself with the person I started with, I had a different level, different experience from sales. So, but I felt like it was kind of like natural to me that I could, help out the sites, and that way made me understand different level of interactions in a deeper way, because obviously at the site level you work with vendors, like data, you enter data into the database, you collect drug, but now I'm actually troubleshooting errors that have to do with those kind of things. And obviously with data management issues, now you can communicate with data management, clinical scientists for issues and escalate things like that. So it's something that added richness to my experience so far. And I can't actually, I'll say for me, and I'll speak for myself, it was very fundamental for my experience so far in my current role. That's for sure.
Yeah, really has been an amazing conversation having with you guys. Okay, so Fula, you want to?
Sorry, I'm not sure you got my question right. I was saying that what would have been growing in the site. I don't have site level experience at all. So I'm wondering what career progression would have been in the site if you decided to stay on, what's next after.
Oh, okay.
Later role,
Absolutely, of course, yeah. So obviously, when you start off at the site level, the usual entry level position is, being a research assistant. So you kind of help out with data entry, maybe sometimes documentation, maybe screening patient charts based on your understanding of the protocol. And obviously, as your experience progresses, maybe the coordinator might delegate you to help out with informed consent and things like that. Then once you move on, you can move on to obviously the research coordinator role, where you kind of do more of recruitment, making sure that you kind of monitor your recruitment progress against the sponsor targets, right? And, doing like ethics submissions, and that could be for a variety of things, if it's continuing review, protocol amendments, and things like that. And sometimes at the site level, your PI might want to run investigator-driven research. So you might actually need to submit maybe regulatory submissions that's usually done normally at the sponsor level. So depending on what is done at the site, you can actually do that. So after you've stayed a while at the coordinator level, maybe it could be a senior research coordinator. But I think where it usually ends for the most part is becoming a research manager. So at that level, you're kind of managing budgets, research allocations and things like that. So as a research manager, you get approached by different sponsors. So you kind of see the one that works best for your study team and your study needs. Okay, exactly. So like, do you have the patient population? How much does it pay? Does it pay the salary of maybe the research assistant that reports to you? So you're kind of doing things at a strategic level and managing finances. And so that's where the key is, that you obviously track the performance of your coordinators, make sure that they're recruiting patients, because as you recruit patients, you get payments from the sponsor, and you keep the door open, or you keep the business running, so to speak, right? Then I guess maybe beyond that, maybe with obviously more qualification, maybe having a PMP, if you have a MBA, maybe you could become a research director at the site level. So I feel that's kind of the progression at the site level. And it depends if you're working at a hospital, like a teaching hospital, like a place like St. Mike's where I worked. I think that's going to be the career trajectory, and obviously that will take a couple of decades for sure.
So what I've been here, it's one of the last part. I mean, I heard a lot, maybe not from the teaching hospital perspective, but maybe now venturing into site ownership. I heard like an entrepreneurship thing. So I mean, I heard that from the US folks a lot. I mean, one of these days we bring some US people. They talk about because you just see a coordinator at some point, boom, they moved into owning a site. They understand a lot of the stuff now. They try to get a PI to work with them on that site, and they're off. They now start running their own thing. So I've heard that part. I don't know if it's common here in Canada.
Yeah, I think when I joined the Corps, I heard you talking about it a bit. And to be honest, I've heard about it. You know, US is a very unique country.
Right.
They don't even wear masks anymore there. Like, so it's a very, it's an interesting place to be, right? So, to what I know, you don't need to have, because I think to run a site in Canada, you have to have a MD, you have to have a medical degree.
Right.
But in the US, if you have the wherewithal, you have the understanding, you can just, for lack of a better term, like gang up with a PI, like a doctor, get a few couple of people and people that have resources and come together and set up a site.
Right.
And just like you follow the regulatory requirements, right? Train. And that way you can actually even approach pharmaceutical companies that, look, we have our sites, we can enroll patients for you and things like that. And if you have like maybe a financial backer and the PI or the doctor that you brought on board has very good ideas, you can actually bankroll your own small startup firm, right? And if you see that is promising, you can actually sell your intellectual property to a pharmaceutical company, and you can cash out from there. So that's US is unique. I don't think the
any country in the world.
Yeah, so that's my understanding.
Driven. Yeah, thanks. Man, brilliant having a conversation. I am very, very, very sure we'll bring you guys maybe one of these days talk about roles, because I mean you came up from that background, so you might know most of the roles right down to the top. Anyways, it's been lovely having you guys. Awesome having you guys. Princess, Benga, awesome, man. You guys have done justice to the topics today. So Fulani is just going to take it away from here. I hope we kept the time, madam.
Guys, honestly, thank you so much. To be honest, I was taking notes because I learned so much from you guys, from you both. And it's quite interesting because I've never actually understood what you did, Princess. So it's really, really helpful for me today. And for me as a project manager, where I am right now, I haven't gotten to the point of data queries yet. So I'm waiting to that time. And thanks for bringing in your site flavor. You make me feel like I missed out something and not going through the site, but I think
exactly
on the sponsor side, so I'll just stay here for now. But so I just wanted to talk about what we're trying to do again. So this is Nigerian Clinical Research and Pharmaceuticals in Canada, and we right now have a WhatsApp group and a LinkedIn group. And the goal is simple. I know there's so many people trying to come into the country. Right now, there's a lot of immigration happening from Nigeria. In fact, because I actually went back to school in the last 9 months, and my research was about health research in disparities. And one of my focus was on Nigerian men, prostate cancer in Nigerian men in Ontario, because we found out that Nigerians were number 3 on the immigration list in terms of the number of immigrants that came in. We're like the highest after India and China. So it used to be for the Black community, it used to be like you would have more of the Jamaicans and all that, but Nigerians topping the list, and all that's going on right now. So I decided to bring these people to you all and we all together, because I believe in the power of storytelling. The moment I can see someone doing this, I can picture and put my puzzle together and say, I've done a little bit of this. I know a little bit of that. I can learn a little bit of this, so I can do this. So, the call to action really is to get as many more Nigerians involved in the LinkedIn group. We're not doing any specific thing like matching right now. We just want people to know that they're Nigerians in clinical research. And ultimately, for me as a clinical research professional, this actually would reflect in the numbers of people involved in clinical research. We also already have the data that we don't do a lot of clinical research among Blacks generally. I think one of the things that would help is actually having more professionals that actually are involved in research, and that would definitely help with patient recruitment. So I just want to say thank you guys for coming over, and hopefully we can get to do things together. And everyone on the group, I mean, if you have an idea, you want to do something, just chat me. I'm an email away. I'm a chat away. Let me know, oh, you have this idea and stuff, and then we can get it rolling. Okay.
All right. So that's brilliant. Thank you, Fulaya. So guys, we'll